Right, good afternoon, and well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Yes, I am another tornado mate, although I flew a slightly different tornado to Greg and to Straz. And if I recall correctly, it had about 48K computing power. So clearly why I'm qualified to be the Deputy Commander of Cyber and Specialist Operations Command. First of all, just a huge thank you. I really enjoyed this morning's session. Some really interesting keynote speeches and panelists, some difficult questions, and some really important themes that I think I will hopefully build on, and we can have more of a discussion as the conference goes on. But just a big shout out to Straz and the IWC and his team, and also the association for putting on this incredible event, the first of many, I hope. So what I'm going to do today is really look through the lens of what we see happening on the battlefield, look at some lessons from Ukraine, and try and elicit the ones that are relevant to what we in Cyber and Specialist Operations Command are doing and why. Now, I think it's really easy when you look at Ukraine to take whatever lessons you want to learn from it. And I think we need to be really clear that Ukraine is not a war that we, as the UK or as NATO, ever want to fight. But I think it's also really clear that there are some really key lessons that we need to take away from that campaign to make sure that we don't fight that kind of war. And if nothing else is a testament to that, it's the fact that our Ukrainian colleagues are advising in the Middle East right now a very different kind of war. But what they're learning and what they're delivering every day on the battlefield is absolutely relevant. So I think the foundations of how we warfight, how we sense, decide, and act are being fundamentally rewritten. The realities of modern conflict are very clear in Ukraine, the most data-rich, digitally contested, and intensely observed war to date. And we can see what a modern, high-intensity war actually looks like. Allied to that, of course, our adversaries are aligning. They're working better together than ever before. They're combining low and high tech to give them numerical and even capability advantage in some areas. The modern battlefield has expanded. The front line, as we saw from pictures this morning, runs through fiber optic cables, cloud servers, and millions, if not trillions, of lines of code. The geography of a joint operating area now stretches from the seabed to the geobelt and reaches across the globe. We see a systemic shift in how command and control, sensing, decision-making, and execution interact, especially against an adversary that is adaptive, resourceful, and tech-enabled. Not to mention, as was brought up this morning, one that does not bat an eyelid at sacrificing millions of its own population. So this absolutely does not mean that traditional domains and military hardware do not matter. They do. Tanks, artillery, fighters, warships, and munitions still matter. You only need to look at the Middle East to see that. We need them all, and we need more of them. But I think what we can also see is that they will not or are unlikely to be decisive on their own. They need to be enabled with investments into the cloud, into data, into command and control, architecture, and systems. Technology and technological innovation are redefining warfare. Autonomous systems, info operations, electronic warfare, space, and cyber, these are the new languages that we need to be fluent in. We need to be able to rapidly exploit digital technologies. The tempo of adaptation and iteration, coupled with the right people, the right data, and the right technology, have become a decisive measure of combat power. And that is really at the heart of why Stratcom has become Cyber and Specialist Operations Command, or CSOC, the fourth military command alongside Navy, Army, and Air and Space Command. And so what I'd like to try and do is bring to life what we're trying to do in CSOC, our purpose. You heard this morning from Straz that we are lead command for a number of things. We aim to execute those authorities or that framework of lead command to be really the critical enablers for defense. We lead command for intelligence, cyber, EM, targeting, C4, and specialist capabilities. But intelligence, cyber, EM, targeting, and C4 are actually really, really key when we think about the modern battle space. And the synergy that bringing all of those together to properly enable the other domains is absolutely critical. The lead command framework delivers a number of authorities, but it's not really about authorities. It's not about ownership. It's about the need to drive coherence across the military commands, to eradicate duplication where it's wasteful, but to absolutely identify pockets of brilliance and innovation where it exists and bring that up and push that across all of the military commands so that we can accelerate our progress in the way we fight and we can develop our capability more coherently. Ultimately, we aim to use that lead command framework within CSOC to help the Army realize its Asgard's ambition, the Navy its Atlantic Bastion, and the Air Force's hybrid air wings, all of which rely on seamless integration across multiple domains. So our first job then is really to ensure that combat power is underpinned by a common digital foundation, shared data, a common data fabric, and digital backbone that brings together a currently fragmented collection of systems and networks into a coherent ecosystem. And of course, what we don't want to do is disrupt the brilliant activity that's going on at the tactical edge. It's about bringing coherence to that whole ecosystem. And in that vein, we are developing the digital targeting web, a connected, data-driven set of digital services designed to seamlessly link sensors, decision makers, and effectors, both human and uncrewed, a sort of unifying central nervous system. The digital targeting web will help us to sense, understand, decide, and act at a pace that surpasses our adversaries, because that is what is important. It will enhance precision and lethality, while also providing greater choice of effects and speed of action. But that is not enough on its own. The digital backbone and the digital targeting web do not just enable the fight. We have seen in modern warfare that they often are the fight, the primary target of the adversary. Ukraine has shown us once again that it is contested before the very first shot is fired, and it continues to be relentlessly targeted throughout the campaign, often at a tempo that is far beyond human cognition. Both sides have struck communications nodes, data links, command posts, satellite connectivity, power, cooling, cloud infrastructure, and commercial service providers with persistent layered attacks, cyber and electronic, as well as kinetic. And of course, don't discount disinformation, legal, and economic pressure that is brought to bear on the suppliers, the commercial providers, and societies. So my second point is that we need to increase our resilience, because it's that resilience that will continue to provide us the freedom of maneuver. So first of all, we need to do this by design, secure by design and assured. We need to move away from systems and networks that have been engineered largely around efficiency, coherence, and enterprise optimization, and move towards an ecosystem of systems that have redundancy, layers, and can be rapidly modified. We also need to improve our ability to withstand adversary action in the cyber and EM domains, particularly that's CSOC's role, which is why at the end of 2025, we stood up the Defence Cyber and Electromagnetic Force, or DCEMF. The DCEMF will unify, again, previously fragmented and in some cases pretty nascent capabilities from across the breadth of defence and enable us to accelerate progress in defensive cyber, both at home and deployed, because of course, as we've heard from before, the battle space stretches not just from the operating area, but it affects us at home as well. And it will also enable us to improve our mastery and understanding of the electromagnetic domain. Now, we will hear more about the electromagnetic domain tomorrow from one of the keynote speakers, but suffice to say, the EM environment is arguably the place where advantage is gained or lost, sometimes, as I said before any shots are fired. So I think thirdly, one of the most striking lessons from Ukraine is the speed of adaptation. Targeting algorithms, sensor fusion tools, and data workflows cannot just be fielded and forgotten. They have to be reconfigured, retrained, and repurposed, often in hours and certainly in days. We see in Ukraine that algorithms are updated mid-mission, digital workflows are adjusted after every contact. They fix, they learn, they update, and deploy continuously. In a rapidly evolving battle space, there is a simple truth. The side that adapts, iterates, and innovates faster has the advantage. So to get after this problem, or a bit of the problem within CSOC, we're establishing a digital warfighter group, another recommendation from the Strategic Defence Review. The Digital Warfighter Group is a collection of highly skilled experts from across the full spectrum: defence, the reserves, industry, and academia. They will be able to deploy, if needs be, alongside conventional warfighters, but also work in the mid and the rear, helping to translate tactical requirements into technology requirements, and then helping the mid and the rear to deliver, or often sometimes in contact on the front line. What they will do is facilitate rapid learning. They will analyze the battle space data in real time, and they'll provide the ability to exploit technology and design solutions while in contact. Again, something we see being used to great effect in Ukraine. And I think that synergy between the military, the regulars, the reserves, the civil servants, industry, academia, allies, and partners is absolutely key. Success requires shared data, shared understanding, open architecture, shared standards, shared purpose, and shared resilience. Perhaps we need to see a shift away from partnership towards integration. And the fourth lesson I'll talk about today is that Ukraine has showed us that data is moving faster than humans can think. The modern battle space generates more data than any human can consume, whether from drone feeds, satellites, acoustic and electric sensors, open source intelligence, and practically every single person or system on the battlefield is generating data. So the volume, velocity, and variety of that data simply outpaces human cognition. Therefore, machine augmentation is not discretionary. AI has to materially change warfare, not by replacing human command, but by accelerating human functions, intelligence, planning, logistics, targeting, and decision support to machine speed to give us that comparative advantage. We must embrace AI so we can compress days and hours into minutes and seconds, allowing commanders to see further, decide faster, and act ahead of the adversary at all levels. But of course, this compression of time presents real problems and challenges for us to overcome, not just in how we deal with it as warfighters in the battle space. Decisions will need to be decentralized and taken at the edge. We just cannot do it any other way. And that is a genuine shift for the way in which some of our force elements work. But it also presents a genuine technological problem. I can only imagine the amount of compute power that is needed to support the level of targeting we see, for example, going on in Iran. So in conclusion, I think as we try to make sense of the model battle space, I think we know what good might look like. To achieve battle space advantage, a force needs to be integrated across all domains, resilient, interoperable, seamless. It must be able to sense, decide, and act faster than the adversary. It needs to adapt, iterate, and innovate. And it needs to do it at machine speed. Cyber and Specialist Operations Command stood up in September 2025, very deliberately as a fourth military command. We're not simply delivering cyber and specialist capabilities for defense. As a fourth military command, we are warfighters. We lead the cyber and the electromagnetic domains. We are operationalizing digital capabilities and driving integration between domains and into the way that we warfight so we can achieve and maintain battle space advantage.